I was reading in the news, they are big Obama supporters, and you are the only company that's been raided so far. This is the second time in the last couple years. Do you think there's something political going on here?
Well, the fact that we're doing the same thing other people are doing, and only we are being targeted, leads me to believe that there are some ulterior, possibly political motives. The second thing is it's an extraordinarily violent response. Coming in with weapons, shutting our business down, interrogating our employees. It's sort of over the top, and again, indicates to me that there's some kind of ulterior political motive there.
Describe for folks what the City of London within the city is.
Right, absolutely. The City of London has been the global center for the global hedge fund community because they're very lax in their regulatory environment for banks and hedge funds. And as a result, they attract the hedge funds. They also attract many of these oligarchs that are fleeing their countries. For example, the Icelandic bankers who stole billions, they took up residency in London. And they give them safe harbor. As a result, in a perverse way, the real estate in London is out of reach for the average person because of the price appreciation due to the inclusion now in the arrival of all these oligarchs from Iceland or from Russia, different territories around the world where they have been able to totally co-opt the system, confiscate wealth. But London is definitely the center of the global arbitrage and the global money laundering business as well. And as a result, it attracts all sorts of these kleptocrats and oligarchs. And the City of London, which is their quote-unquote Wall Street, it's a principality within London, and it fits amongst these other there's a couple of other territories in the world. I believe Washington, D.C. is one of them, and so is the Vatican. These are three centers of it's its own sovereign, if you will, and they have their own government, and they kind of communicate with each other. It's part of the ability of the elite to communicate with each other completely outside of any sovereign that is reportable to the public. It's a private sovereignty, and obviously with the Queen and the monarchy also nearby, there's a lot of communication there as well. There's a lot of wealth that's being controlled. Remember, Gordon Brown last year talked about the shadow banking system. And this is a $14 trillion banking facility that's completely outside of the normal channels of the banking system, that's completely unregulated, it's completely non-visible, non-transparent. And this is where many of the stock deals go down and where a lot of the inside information is capitalized on before becoming public, because it's done completely out of view of the public.
Can Ron Paul win?
Yeah, Ron Paul can win. And in fact, the fear that the media is exhibiting by first trying to put the blackout on him, then of course demonizing him when they're not blacking him out, shows that they are very afraid. He's talking about issues that are resonating with the American people as never before, issues that threaten the establishment, everything from the Pentagon to the CIA to the Federal Reserve to the bankocracy and all the rest of the power elite in Washington. They're being threatened. They're worried. And they wouldn't be paying, they wouldn't be saying anything about Ron Paul. Rush Limbaugh, Hannity, Bill O'Reilly, all the rest of these people would not be denouncing him if he didn't threaten the apparatus that they're part of. So he can win, and as you say, he's moving up in the polls. He's moving up slowly, but he's moving up organically. He's getting more and more people, young people especially, but people of all ages in all different states, not only in this country, I might add, but around the world. People are Ron Paulians in every country. So this is an international movement. It bodes so well for the American future as we face, of course, terrible economic and other kinds of troubles. But this is the bright spot in America today, is the Ron Paul movement.
With more on this incredible scandal that threatens to bring down the Obama crime operation is Larry Pratt, the executive director of Gun Owners of America, the only no-compromise pro-Second Amendment organization here in the United States. Larry Pratt, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a real pleasure to be with you, and I agree with your assessment. It made the scandal, the crime spree that the government has been on, could possibly bring the president down before the next election. But my guess is that there is just so much investigating that's being done that Congressman Issa, who's the point of the spear on this, is not going to have things in a position for that. But I do believe it will affect the election, and it will almost certainly guarantee that the president be a one-term president. He has refused to fire the people responsible for running guns into Mexico, some 2,000 guns being used in crimes that have taken the lives of about 200 people. Only 600 of the guns have been recovered, so there's a lot more crime coming down the road. And this, I think once the Republican nominee gets a hold of this, if they don't do it beforehand, it's going to be lethal.
The mayor of London, like Bozo the Clown, unveiling this new memorial and then saying it's our job to have a controlled demolition of these conspiracy theories that 10 years on continue to grow. And we've got all these BBC hit pieces, U.S. hit pieces. The system is scared to death. I mean, their favorite tool of staging terror attacks and using it to crack down on the public, they are hopping mad, Paul, that it's not working.
They're mad and they're desperate, which is why this week sees a complete onslaught of new 9/11 hit pieces against 9/11 Truth by the likes of BBC, National Geographic and the History Channel, which I find it pretty rich, pretty ironic that the History Channel, every time I turn it on, is talking with, you know, lending credence and credibility to UFOs and alien invasions, giving people platform to spread that
and
topic.
Bigfoot,
Chupacabras.
Chupacabras.
Yeah, everything that's rife with misinformation, and yet anything to do with 9/11, it's always a hit piece against 9/11 Truth.
Well, because the global banksters don't care if you're obsessed with leprechauns all day, but they are concerned if you know that Building 7 was blown up and they announced it on TV beforehand, or the U.S. troops were already massed in Afghanistan in and around for the invasion, or hijackers trained at U.S. bases. Amy Alcon, thank you so much for joining us on INFOWARS Nightly News.
Thank you for having me.
So break down what happened to you and now what it's basically come to.
Well, I was at LAX. I was going to an evolutionary psychology conference in Binghamton, New York, and I usually don't buzz at the metal detectors, but at United, they were searching every person getting on a plane. Not searching, they were body scanning or groping every person who gets on a plane. And I am very passionate about our Constitution. I really feel grateful to have all these rights. Nobody anywhere else in the world has the level of rights we have. And then also, I mean, I don't want to be touched in my most private places by a stranger. So I started to get a little teary-eyed. And then I thought about it, and I thought, these people who are earning a living, violating our Fourth Amendment rights, do not deserve our quiet compliance. Now, you know, I can sort of hold back my tears and everything and be a tough cookie, but I thought they don't deserve it, so I started sobbing. And I sobbed as this woman searched me, this TSA woman. Now, it is my opinion, I can't prove it, but that she did this to be punitive. What she did, like what happened to Miss USA, she took the side of her hand and she stuck it in my vagina 4 times. They go up one leg and then up the other leg. She did it 4 times. Each time she jammed it up there. I was so shocked, and I was already sobbing and had intended to sob, but I didn't understand that a crime would be committed there. I thought, you know, the government allows I considered a crime what they do already, that they're groping your breasts. There's no probable cause. There was no sign that I would be meeting with Al-Qaeda, you know, in Binghamton, New York. I was interviewing some anthropologists, and
Undoubtedly, this is a giant power grab. It's about setting the precedent. They're now announcing they're going to be on the streets of America doing this. So you get up to the point, you're crying, you're telling her you don't like it.
What happened, I was just sobbing. I mean, it was so shocking to me to not only have what is the standard be done to me, but have this woman go really far. And someone on my blog this morning said, oh, you're a drama queen. A woman like you makes this up. Well, I was just in New Orleans. I also got groped. I also cried. And what I wonder is, why doesn't everyone else cry as their constitutional rights are totally violated? But in that case, I didn't scream, you raped me, because she did the standard thing where they go up your leg. She did not go into my vagina. which is just obscene and horrible. So I screamed, "You raped me, you sexually violated me." I called my boyfriend. I was terribly upset. And then I blogged about it when I got home. And I blogged this woman's name. Because I don't think if you do this, you're wearing a name tag as an emissary of the government, that you get to be scot-free about it, that we need to name the people who are committing crimes against us. And I think anybody who works for the government searching you without probable cause, by the way, is a criminal and should be named. It's not just somebody who goes much further like this woman did, as I believe, in a punitive way. That's my belief, that she intended to punish me for not going quietly and being one of the we the sheeple, like so many people who go pleasantly, compliantly, and politely.
Sheriff, great to have you here with us.
Hey, thanks a lot, Alex. It's always good to be with you.
Do you ever feel like that you're living in some weird alternate dimension, because arresting Amish for selling, tomatoes and milk, kids being arrested for lemonade stands, Gibson Guitar told to leave the country, TSA going in the pants of people now, folks being charged and facing life in prison for videotaping and taping police in public. I mean, is our government trying to go beyond North Korea? Do they think they're God?
Yeah, it's basically come to that. And you failed to mention the other one. In Florida, the police are telling the news media they can no longer have scanners. So this all fits into the picture that you're drawing for your audience right now, that it's so out of control. It's everything to protect the government, and yet nothing to protect the Bill of Rights or the people. And this should be very alarming to everyone in America, not just Alex Jones listeners, but everyone in America should be getting on board, listening to your information, because this is now affecting the mainstream of America.
Well, let's talk about the solar flares, and now segueing from the fires of Central Texas, which were quite devastating. I'm into personal preparedness, as you are, and most of your listeners are. But when those fires hit, I realized I had a huge gap in my preparedness plan. I did not have a fire respirator and fire gear. So I immediately made sure that I had that covered. And then, so I actually ordered products and got them in, and now I can actually fight fires to some degree that are in my front yard if I have to. But then I also began to ask questions, where else do I have gaps in personal preparedness? What are the real risks to safety, to growing food, to surviving on our planet? Now, you hinted at this. One of the things that the U.S. government does just maliciously and insidiously is they make people think that things that aren't dangerous are very, very dangerous, like so-called terrorism. And then at the same time, they ignore the things that are really dangerous and make them seem like they're not dangerous at all, like Fukushima, for example, or now what is theoretically a big risk of a big risk in our lifetime. Not today, not tomorrow, but over a human lifetime. It's a very real risk that a solar flare could knock out the power grid, and it could knock it out for years in some places, and it could disconnect power from the nuclear facilities that are trying to run coolant pumps to keep their fuel rods from going into a meltdown status. Well,
that's right, Mike. We are such a dependent society now, and technology is great, but it's a double-edged sword. It took 80 years or more to build our modern system. And when a little tornado comes through or hurricane, you can have places out for 3-4 months, and it's a national effort to get it back up. But if you have widespread systems knocked out, then it causes a cascading where you're literally knocked back to the Stone Age. And you're right. Yes. They estimate, because they've been studying the sun for more than 300 years in a modern scientific fashion, that these solar flares are a 100-year event. The problem is, it appears we're entering one of those in the next decade. So you're right, it's a once-in-a-lifetime deal, but we're here.
Okay, well, that's it for this September 16th edition of the INFOWARS Nightly News. But of course, the program itself is only getting started. And remember, we're not corporate sponsored, and we're not government bailout money sponsored. We're supported only by our subscribers and those who wish to donate to us. So if that's you, please help us expand and reach even more people with this powerful new platform. Alex will be back next week, but for tonight, I'm Aaron Dykes, signing off.